We will start off with Chris Stock from Inside the U. Chris, go ahead for Coach Diaz.
Yeah, Coach, how's Tyreek and James, and do you expect them on Saturday?
They're both fine. That was just your normal bumps and bruises after a game. Both guys practiced full yesterday. They practiced full today.
Go now to Matt Shodell, Kane Sport. Matt.
Oh, there we go. Unmute. Hey, Manny. So, with that said, I want to ask you about the depth at defensive back. You're getting a little thin there. Isaiah Dunson, I guess he's the number 3 safety right now, or number 4 safety. How's he coming along? Talk about.
He's been good. Like about Isaiah, he's highly competitive. Practices very, very hard. Conscientious, wants to learn. So I think we think he fits better at safety. His development is going well.
We'll go now to Barry Jackson from the Miami Herald. Barry.
Hi, Manny. 2 quick things. The quickest one is Traore still on the team? And the other issue was with looser transfer rules now, with players able to leave, being eligible to play next year, if you have a young guy that you want to invest in long-term who's close in quality to a senior in terms of performance and ability to help you win, do you at all factor in the fact that you want the younger player to stick around, incentivize him to stay? Does that impact your thinking at all? We must play the freshman if he's close to the senior because we don't want the freshman to transfer.
Usman is fine. He had the flu last week. That's why he didn't appear for the game last week. And if I have you right, are you saying basically would you play a younger player just so he doesn't leave?
If he's comparable in quality to the senior, Manny, if he's comparable in quality, does the concern about players transferring any of your thinking in terms of saying we must give this guy snaps, he's close in quality to the senior we have, just to make sure he doesn't want to leave us at the end of this?
Well, I actually think you answered your own question. If they're comparable in quality, then they're playing. They would be playing. We don't. I promise you, seniority does not matter. We have to play the best guys. I came here 5 years ago and started 3 true freshmen at linebacker, but they have to know what to do. They have to be able to function. We've seen forever. It goes beyond talent. Talent has to know what to do, and that's our job as coaches to get them what to do. And so, and the hardest part with young guys, it always happens at different times, and that's why we continue to pour in them, because some guys pop right away and they figure it out. Some guys it just takes, a month. Some guys it takes a year, and it also depends on what position. There are some positions that are a little bit easier to plug and play than some other ones. So, yeah, I mean, if they're worthy of snaps, they get snaps. But the flip side is if they're not, they can't, because then you lose the locker room. Because the locker room knows, they're only playing this guy to keep him happy, and that's not fair, to be honest.
Thanks.
We'll go now to Tom D'Angelo from the Palm Beach Post. Tom.
Yeah, hi, Manny. Thanks, Alex. Unrelated to this game, Manny, I wonder if you think the early signing period, an unintended consequence of this has been what we're seeing is coaches, administration's anxious to release coaches that are on the fence because they need to get someone in there to start recruiting, and then also rating other staff. We see a Baylor coach has already left Baylor to go to Texas Tech, and basically because he needs to get started on recruiting because there's no time after the season. Is this bad for the game? Do you still think we need an early signing period? Do you think maybe this has been something that needs to be looked at?
Here's what we need, Tom. We need a total rethink, because we've changed everything. And this is what I keep saying. And we're living off of old rules, old calendars, old benchmarks. People are going to sign a class in December, and they're not going to know what they're replacing. That's the biggest difference. You used to have an idea through graduation or NFL attrition. You would have an idea of what you need to sign in next year's class. And this year, you have no idea. And anyone who says that they do, they're making that up. Mm-hmm. So in any given year, you think, okay, we lost 2, we need to find 2. You may lose 6, you may lose 5. And if you sign 2, you're gonna have a hard time functioning. We have entered a new era, and because we've made decisions piecemeal, one by one, without a global, 30,000 foot view on what we're doing, we are just walking in the dark, and it's not going to be a surprise to see us bang our shin into a table, because until someone can answer that question on how you refill your roster, we're going to be I mean, there's a big rethink that needs to come, and I'm not sure whose brains it is going to come from, but it's desperate for the future of our game.
So would you rather go back to a February as the first signing period, or some have suggested no signing?
No, because the early signing period has been a good thing for high school recruiting.
Right.
But is it a good thing if it's encouraging players to leave their football team during the season because now they want to try to get to a new destination? I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's everything's changed, and we control. The crazy part is the grown-ups in the room are supposed to be controlling the calendar for what's best for the programs and best for student athletes. We made a lot of rules that are really good for the student athletes, which is great, and it's better for them. But we have to protect the programs as well. And I'm not sure that we have the guardrails in place to do that right now.
Thank you.
We'll go now to Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny.
Hey, Manny. Just curious in regards to what Tom was just asking you about. I mean, what kind of say do coaches honestly have in this? And like, you know, how do you sort of voice your opinion or get heard so that, you know, they kind of listen to what you guys are suggesting?
Well, we're lucky. For example, we have great leadership in our conference. I think that's one thing that Jim Phillips has been phenomenal at, is listening to the coaches in the league. We've got great leadership of great set of coaches in our league. Dave Clausen from Wake has kind of led our group, and yeah, because the coaches are the guys that they're on the front lines. I think what you've seen in the past week, I think, you know, the conference's voices are going to be the ones that maybe are the most telling now, which it probably should be, because again, they get the most direct feedback of what's actually going on out there. And the reality is, if you're in the ACC or the Big Ten or the Pac-12 or the SEC, your life is probably a little bit different than what the NCAA was trying to put an umbrella over all of, you know, Division I, II, and III athletics. So it's well past time that we set a bunch of rules in place that benefit the you know, those type of leagues. And I think that's what's happening. You know, just trying to read through the tea leaves like you guys are. But it's like there's a sense of urgency because we've done some things. We've kind of opened up a barn door without building any, you know, fence posts out there. And it's a little scary.
And then this is a quick follow, just because it kind of came up against Georgia Tech again, where, you know, teams are trying to slow down your tempo, you know, with players kind of hitting the field and, you know, I don't want to say faking injuries, but it certainly feels like they're obviously trying to slow you guys down. Is there anything you've been able to, you know, to do to express that to referees, or how does that sort of, you know, how do you guys sort of handle that?
Yeah, that's a slippery slope. That's another thing we've spoken about as a conference and as a coaching collective, and they send out videos, to be honest, to try to shame the coaches that allow that. There may be some rules that come in the future. We've heard some suggestions about if you're hurt, you have to miss a series. You can't come back in for the remainder of that series. But then there's some downsides of that. I mean, and you know, and the officials are in the hardest spot. They are in no position to decide whether an injury is real or not, because God forbid, you know, they thought it wasn't and it was. So I'm glad we've got David Feely. I'm glad that we're a stronger team in the fourth quarter, and our guys can compete and be in great condition to go fast or go whatever tempo we need to.
Thanks.
Going now to Kobe Price from the Sun Sentinel. Kobe.
Hey, man, we kind of asked about this earlier in the week with the running backs and the workload that Jalen has. Noticed that he didn't have, or saw that he didn't have, the red non-contact jersey. I guess where do Cody and Thad, I guess, kind of stand? And I guess, do you have an idea of how many reps you're trying to get them in, you know, I guess from a per game basis or even against Florida State?
Well, that's something that we usually kind of piece together on Thursday. Now that we've had a Tuesday and Wednesday, we actually let those two kind of compete during the week to see even who would be the second guy in the game. You know, both what they do with the ball in their hands and what they do without the ball in their hands. So, you know, now they'll have a chance to analyze today's film, a lot of third down, red zone type stuff today, and, you know, and get with the coaches and kind of really figure out what our plan is for allocating touches and snaps.
And just kind of follow up on that, where's the biggest step that both of them need to take, Cody and Thad? What's the biggest step they need to take, I guess, to solidify themselves as the number two behind Jalen?
Well, like always with young guys, first and foremost, it's always pass protection. You know, make sure that you know where to go. I mean, you know, got to protect our quarterback, right? I mean, that's the crucial thing. And then it's usually details of that. I mean, guys know how to run. I mean, they've been running. You know, running backs they've been usually great running backs since the time they were in Pee Wee football. So at times it's the nuances of the footwork, the steps, the patience on how to get the ball and let the holes develop. Usually once they handle that, and then what they have naturally, and we really think, you know, that Cody and Thad are both talented. What they have naturally kind of takes over. So it's kind of who can process the little details like that, and go in and function the game. And then the last thing, of course, above all, is ball security. You know, who can we trust to protect the football?
And one last more. Who's ahead, I guess, from a pass protection standpoint? Between
That's what
those.
I'm telling you. There's that's why we film practice.
Appreciate that.
I know we still got a few hands up. You only got time for one more for Coach. You got to start getting players in here. We're going to go to Susan Miller-Degnan from the Miami Herald. Susan, last question for Coach Diaz.
Manny, how important is qualifying for a bowl in the big picture scenario? And do you guys ever talk about that?
We do not talk about that. It's obviously important for a program, but that's not something that we've spoken about all season. We haven't spoken about conference standings. We haven't spoken about anything other than winning the next game. And it sounds cliche, but going 1-0 every week. And when it's Florida State week, you don't have to talk about anything other than beating Florida State. So everything else sorts itself out if you keep doing that. And that's how we've gotten to where we're at today. And that's all we're talking about right now.